Welcome to the Shabbat Channel, a taste of CSAIR in your inbox. We wish that we could be with you in person, but for now we think this is the next best thing. So check out this week's episode for music from an amazing artist and Torah from our own CSAIR community. For now, you'll have to supply the Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, my name is Rabbi Ethan Liden. I'm so excited to be here on the Shabbat Channel. This week's parsha is Mishpatim, which follows on the heels of one of the great parshiot in the Torah. Of course, they're all great, but one of the most famous parshiot in the Torah, which we read last week, which of course was the giving of the Ten Commandments and the revelation of God on Mount Sinai. And one of the things that the rabbis talk a lot about when it comes to, especially this section of Torah, is this concept, ein mukdam u'me'achar b'Torah. There's no before or after when it comes to the Torah. And what they mean by that is you can't really understand the chronology of the Torah simply by reading it in the order that we have it. And this week's parsha, along with last week's parsha, along with what's coming up with the golden calf in a couple of weeks, is a good reminder that the order of things actually really matters. And Ibn Ezra, one of the medieval commentators, points out that he thinks that the correct order of these sets of stories should be as follows. It should be revelation, right? God comes down on Mount Sinai, as we read last week, with all of the thunder and the lightning and the Sturm and Drang of revelation. And then the people get scared. The people are terrified. They run away. There's actually a midrash that every time the people hear God's voice, they retreat 12 miles, and the ministering angels have to bring them back. So first is the revelation, and then is the people's fear, as it's told in the Torah. And of course, the people say to Moshe, you go up the mountain and talk to God. We're going to stay right here. And according to Ibn Ezra, therefore, the order is revelation, people get terrified, Moses goes up the mountain to receive the laws, receives the laws, and while that is happening, the sin of the golden calf occurs. And that order is really fascinating because I think what it does is highlights for us the tension that we have at the core of the relationship between the people of Israel and God. It seems to be the case that God's revelation on Sinai is meant to be a revelation of the rules and regulations that will govern the covenant between the people and God. God means to give the people these rules directly, but it doesn't work out that way because the people are terrified, and so Moses goes up the mountain to get the rules. But while Moses is gone, while the rules are being given, unfortunately, there is a vacuum created in the relationship between the people and God. And into that vacuum rushes the need for the golden calf. What the golden calf really represents is the people's attempt to recreate a relationship that they don't yet have. Because the problem is that while the content of the covenant between the people and God will be rules and laws, the meaning of the relationship is something much deeper than that. God desires that the people will be close, but they're not ready. God desires that the people will be near, but they're not yet prepared. And while God attempts to give rules as a way to structure that relationship, as a way to give the people a pathway to that nearness and closeness, it turns out that that doesn't work. And that's how we end up with the golden calf. And that's why Ibn Ezra's order that he gives is so interesting. Revelation, fear, rules, sin. But what I want to note is that God, as we have seen in other places in Torah, seems to learn from this experience. God seems to understand that what the people need first is nearness, is closeness, is relationship before the rules. And so what we get at the end of the book of Exodus, and according to Ibn Ezra, after the golden calf, not as it's presented in the Torah, but after the golden calf, only after that sin does God present the people with an opportunity to be near to the divine without all of those rules. And of course, that nearness is the tabernacle that will be the work of the rest of the book of Exodus. And in fact, the moment when God descends to the tabernacle at the end of the book of Exodus is the final form that the revelation was supposed to take. Because back at Sinai, the people ran away. But this time, when the people build a tabernacle, God is able to dwell amongst them, near them. So the content of their relationship can be closeness, not laws. In this moment when nearness is difficult, in this moment when there seems to be so many rules that govern the types of interactions that we can have with each other, it's very important to remember that though the structure of our relationships may be governed by rules, the content of our relationships needs to be nearness and closeness to each other. And even if we can't do that physically, we have to find ways to do that emotionally. We can't be afraid of the possibility of being in relationship with each other. We can't let the rules define what allows us to what we allow to happen between us and others. And so, as we move into this Shabbat, as we move into this conversation that God is having with the people about what is the content of the relationship that the people will have with God, let us try to remember that it's not the rules that define us. It's the content and the nearness of our relationships that makes our lives worth living. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, CSAIR. It's so lovely to be here with you, virtually from afar, but I feel so close. If I don't know you already, my name is Deborah Sacks Mintz, and I'm just so honored to share a song with you to get us into the spirit of Shabbos. There's a lovely tradition in some communities to sing verses from Shir HaShirim, from the Song of Songs, either before Kabbalat Shabbat or in between Kabbalat Shabbat and Mariv. So I'm going to share a melody I composed for several different psukim from Shir HaShirim. It's called Dodi Li. Ani ledodi ודודי לי הרואה בשושנים אני לדודי ודודי לי הרואה בשושנים אחתי עונתי תמתי אחתי אחתי עונתי תמתי אחתי אני לדודי ודודי לי הרואה בשושנים רינה ביי 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 ענה דודי ואמר לי קומי לך רעייתי ענה דודי ואמר לי קומי לך רעייתי כשושנה בין החוכים כן רעייתי כשושנה בין החוכים כן רעייתי אני לדודי ודודי לי הרואה בשושנים רינה ביי 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 הנך יפה רעייתי הנך יוני הנך יפה רעייתי הנך יוני אני לדודי ודודי לי Good Shabbos. May it be sweet and beautiful. אני לדודי ודודי לי הרואה בשושנים. אני לדודי